Hi, I'm Marina and Faith, and I'm here to tell you a story. So, my sister and I were talking the other day about childhood and sort of childhood obsessions or fixations. In my case, I was definitely more of a singularly focused, obsessive child about a lot of different things. I was sort of an all in kind of girl, and I guess I really am that way as an adult for the most part as well. Go big or go home. So, when I was young, my obsession was gymnastics. Absolutely obsessed with gymnastics. I studied everything about gymnastics. If I had an assignment for school, it was about gymnastics or Nadia Comaneci or Bella Caroli, whatever it was. If I got to choose the topic, it was on one of those things, or tigers. That was the other massive obsession. But the gymnastics, I wanted desperately to be a gymnast, and my parents couldn't afford to put me into gymnastics, and so I did everything that I could on my own, studying techniques, watching anytime there was a television show on that featured the gymnasts. I was watching that. Of course, keep in mind this was before the internet age, so a lot of my research and writing was from encyclopedias or other book sources. Back in the day when we went to libraries for books, they are things you opened, physical, hard copy items. But I loved it. I absolutely loved everything about gymnastics, and I spent a lot of my childhood on the bars. It was so funny because my sister and I, we didn't go to the same school at the same time, but once. When I was in 5th grade, she was in kindergarten. So in elementary school, went to Felicita Elementary School for 4th and 5th grade. And while I was there, she came in and when I was in 5th grade. So that was the only time we overlapped, and kindergartners weren't hanging out in the playground at the same time as 5th graders. So she had no concept or awareness of what my elementary school life looked like. So I was explaining to her when I was there, I played on the bars nonstop. So we had 4 bars. There were 2 sets with a lower bar and a higher bar. And then on the other side of it was a slightly higher and another high bar. And so really those were like chin-up bars, but I would do all the tricks. I lived on those bars. And it was funny because I would wear a skirt almost every day to school, but I always wore shorts under it. And those were before the times of like the shorter sort of spandex shorts that, like the bike shorts. That's what they were when I was a kid. They were bike shorts. That's why you would wear those compression shorts. It wasn't for all sports, and it was really just for bicycling. And they got really kind of wild, but most of them, they were black with like a neon stripe down the side, but they would be longer, nearly to your knees. Again, not what we have available to us today. But I just wore regular shorts under my skirts, which is kind of funny because that's the sort of thing that made me nuts with my oldest daughter. She was a big fan of layering, and layering was really popular when she was a child and then into her preteens. It was, the tank top and then the undershirt and then the overshirt and then a little shrug or jacket. And it made me insane because every day she had 4 to 6 articles of clothing to be washed. I'm like, what happened? You had on one outfit. Why are there so many layers? Why is there so much laundry? But it was like the style, and so she had to be with the style. But for me, it was less about fashion. It was about practicality. I was going to play on the bars. I liked wearing skirts, but I needed to have shorts on underneath because modesty is important. And so I would sit out there on the bars. The second the bell rang, I sprinted to the bars, and everybody kind of knew. Again, I was like upper class of, by the time I was at Felicita, I was in 4th and 5th grade. So I was in the upper class of elementary school. And so I kind of got to have say of the bars. But if someone was on my bar, so right, I would come up and stare at them like, okay, let's do a trick off, see who can do it better. And then whoever can, they get the bar. So I could do all the tricks, and that sounds so snobby and like whatever, but I was really, really good. I was good at a couple of things in childhood: playing on the bars, roller skating, rock star at both. And that was during the roller rink phase where that was really a thing. And we would go to the roller rink. We'll graduate to that in a moment. But anyways, playing on the bars was amazing. And I would do all the death-defying tricks, I was explaining to my sister, she's like, oh my gosh, you did that stuff? That's ridiculous. And my mom played on the bars when she was a kid too, so she wasn't at all alarmed by my ridiculousness on the bars. My hands were like permanently calloused, like all across the top of my hands, just permanent calluses from playing on the bars. And it was like the perfect width, the one that I had at Felicita. It was a perfect width bar for my hands. I could stay on, I could do all the no-handed tricks, you know, flipping around where you're on the back of your knees. You could do the holding your hands on either side of your legs, flipping around, and then I would alternate while I'm flipping. I would move my hands to the inside, one to the inside, one to the outside, one, and then the other way, and then I would go around no-handed, just on the back of my knees, and then I'd dismount, flip off the bars, and, you know, stick it with the landing, which was so much fun. And it's weird because I never ever got dizzy, not even remotely dizzy. I could spin around. I don't remember what my record was, but I think it was close to 100 times that I could spin around on the bar and be completely fine. And I could do it no-handed more than 5 times so that I could flip around continuously no-handed and just roll with it, which was, I mean, such a thrill. So I could also do, like, they were called pencil drops, where you're sitting with the bar like right at your backside, and you flip over backwards, but with no hands. I mean, I could do it with hands, obviously, but I would do it with no hands. The shooting star, where you like have the bar at your waist and you kick your legs back, and then you put your feet on the bar with your hands in the middle, and then you shoot through and up, and it just is like beautiful, like little arcing situation, and then you land. I loved doing all of those tricks. And so 4th and 5th grade, that's where you'd find me every single recess. That, and if it was crummy weather and that wasn't really an option, I also played tetherball a lot. I loved tetherball. Played tetherball a lot in 3rd grade. Jump rope earlier than that. 1st and 2nd grade, I did a lot of jump rope. We lived in Knoxville at that time. I went to Kingston Corner, which was a private school. And so I started 3rd grade there, stayed there for a little while, but we would do all the double Dutch tricks and, you know, independent jump roping as well. I've decided this year I kind of want to get back into jump roping. It's really, really good exercise. I won't be double Dutch flare because I don't have anybody to jump with, but individual jump roping, it's good cardio. And I'm sure I'm going to be aghast at how short a time I can continuously jump rope, but it's still sort of fun. But playing on the bars was like my bread and butter. And I would remember, you know, in between like runs of tricks, I would sit on the bar and be like looking out at the playground, and there would be this group of girls who were like too cool to get dirty or sweaty during recess, and they would just walk around the perimeter of the playground and the courts. And I used to just think to myself, ugh, the worst. Like, get out here and have fun. And I had a couple of girlfriends who were big on the bars too, and so we would, you know, enjoy all our tricks. Sometimes we'd deviate from the bars and go and tumble on the grass, and so I could do lots of different cool tricks. Again, having not taken gymnastics or any of that, it was pretty impressive what I'd like figured out on my own. But I loved it, and I was obsessed. And I so desperately wanted to be able to take gymnastics. I begged my parents, like, relentlessly, please, please, please let me take gymnastics. I'm going to be so good. I'll be so committed. I promise I'll do all the things. Because I was already doing that without any training. I was living, breathing, sleeping, training. I'm going to be a gymnast. I'm a gymnast. I'm a gymnast. And the funny thing is, my dad was a big man. He was 6'5". My mom is on the shorter end. She's 5'6", but still, you know, that's average-ish height for women. I'm 5'9". When I was young, I was tall. I was always taller than my classmates, on the taller end, at least. There were few people that were taller than me, rarely any boys, especially in like elementary school. And so my gymnastic dreams were dashed in 6th grade when my parents finally had the resources to put me into gymnastics. I got to go and take lessons. I think I was in the lessons for maybe 6 weeks. It could have been longer, but it was around about that time frame. And I remember after maybe the 2nd session, I came home devastated. I mean, absolutely crushed, because my instructor, now mind you, in 6th grade, I'm 11 at this time, okay? My instructor is solidly 3 inches shorter than me. I think I was 5'1" or 5'2" in 6th grade. So my instructor is in the 4'10" range. I'm like, I know I have lots of growing left to do, And I remember coming home and just being so sad. Like, I'm never going to be able to be a gymnast. They're going to make me do the men's apparatus because I'm too tall. And so I was envisioning how was I going to transfer to the high bar and the rings and like the pommel horse. Like, how am I going to be able to do these things? I'm a girl, but I'm obviously not going to be able to do them in girls' gymnastics because I'm too tall. I would have to wait and participate with an older group for the uneven bars, because if not, when you would do a dismount like a shooting star, my butt would have scraped the bottom. That wasn't a possible trick for me with the bar arranged for the other 10 and 11-year-olds. My butt was too, and I was so much taller than my classmates, like alarmingly so. Again, I'm taller than my instructor. I was much, much taller than all of my classmates. So I was devastated. My dreams were crushed. My dad and some family friends had a bet running since I was probably in 4th or 5th grade that I would make it to 6 feet. And there were good odds based on, that like wives' tale of how tall you are when you're 2. If you double that, that's about how tall you'll be when you're an adult. And I should have been about 6 feet. But see, I had been praying after that gymnastics class debacle that God would allow me to stay short so that I would have a fighting chance of being a gymnast. So I think it was really my God hearing my prayers, my earnest prayers that I wanted to be shorter to be a gymnast, that led me to not hitting my 6-foot potential. Possibly. My sister likes to say that she's 5'10", but I think she's 5'12". You're 6 feet, Kristen. So, because if you see us in pictures, so 5'9", okay, and then here's my sister in this range. So it's not possible that she is 5'10" if I'm 5'9", and we are markedly different, but she'll argue that one all day long. I would have been like happy to make it to 6 feet, but that wasn't my story. But my bars obsession should have ended when I hit 6th grade, because, you go into middle school, or for me, where we lived, we had middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th. I should have, when I went to Del Dios, not had bars anymore, and I didn't. There were no bars. I did spectacularly break my arm in 6th grade playing on a bars dynamic, but I'll tell you about that another time. It was really cool. I did move schools in the middle of 6th grade, went to Roosevelt Middle School, which was on the border of Vista and Oceanside. We moved in with my aunt and uncle, and so we went there, and they had bars there. So my bars journey continued, and I was right back at it, 6th and 7th grade, playing on the bars every day, rocking out all the tricks, continuing to do them really well. And then when we moved to Knoxville in the middle of 7th grade, my bars journey was done. I didn't have access to bars anymore. Not until we moved back to San Diego and San Marcos in the middle of, or right at the end of 8th grade. I missed more or less the last month of 8th grade, and all the teachers were like, it's not going to make a difference. You can't get a higher A. It's fine. She doesn't have to be here. So we left in early May and moved back from Knoxville to San Marcos. And some friends of ours, the Scheibels, they had a set of bars in their community park. They had this really, it's like the coolest community, because it's a cul-de-sac in and around situation where all the houses are on the alignment. But in the middle of it, as soon as you drive in, there's this great big park with like a baseball field and basketball courts and playground equipment and bars. So I got to go back out and, again, relive my bars journey and have fun doing tricks. And actually, my 14th birthday, which was in the middle of 9th grade, my mom took a picture of me playing on the bars, and I was doing that dead man's drop. So you're sitting with your backside right on the bar, and then you just, like, you're completely straight, flip backwards off the bar, and you do a flip in the air and land on your feet. My mom perfectly captured the photo when my head is down and my feet are up, and I'm, more or less pencil straight. It's a very cool photo. I gotta see if I can find that somewhere, but I loved that photo because I was like, yeah, no, I really could do that. That was really a thing that I did. Now I would probably injure myself tremendously by getting on the bars. Part of me wants to see if I could do it anyways, but really now it's like the thickness issue of the bar. It has to be just right, like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. probably done with my bar journey. It's probably run its course, but it would be fun to see if I could do any of those things anymore. Anyway, so just some fun musings from my childhood and my childhood obsession, playing on the bars, being a gymnast, which never materialized into anything more significant. Anyways, I'd love to hear about your childhood obsessions and the things that you couldn't let go of. So drop me a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and otherwise come back again and I'll tell you another story. Thanks.